I think one of the things that's been difficult in telling the story to the American people is that it's Senate procedure.
Right.
It's complicated,
Boring.
it's not very sexy.
Right.
So if you can talk a little bit about how, for instance, with the National Labor Relations Board,
Yeah.
how this is affecting people's lives when their cases aren't going forward, when they're really just stymied at all levels in their workplace.
Right. So we have a whole host of federal agencies that are tied up.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the major ones, obviously, for us is the National Labor Relations Board. It's the only agency, it's the only place, because of federal preemption, this is the real conspiracy at work.
Right.
It preempts any other body, including states, from doing the same work. 80 million people who work in the private sector are covered by this board and by the National Labor Relations Act. And it means that all collective action could mean, the two of us discuss our pay at work and we get fired because our employer has said, we don't want you talking about pay. And we had the audacity to talk about our pay or our health care or our retirement. And many, many cases are like this. In fact, 4,000 cases on average a year are just these kinds of cases where two people talk about something together at work, or I send you an email at work and I get fired for doing it. And the only place where that is protected is the National Labor Relations Act and the National Labor Relations Board and the regional boards that do, in fact, enforce those rights. So it's shut down, basically, even right now, because there's only 3 members on it. Only one is confirmed, and his term is up on August, chairman, and then it will be literally shut down. But even now, with 2 recess appointments, the Court of Appeals has said recess appointments are unconstitutional of the president. So it's really shut down already.
Right, because any decisions they make could be, again,
Will be,
challenged.
yeah.
Will be challenged.
Yeah, not to contradict you.
Because
but-
of this pending litigation that
Right, which
on the
won't be
recess
decided.
appointments.
That pending litigation on the recess appointments, Supreme Court won't hear it till at least 2014. And with this Supreme Court, who knows what they'll do. Even though the Constitution is clear that the president has the ability to make recess appointments, they've now said, oh, he can make them as long as it's between 2 Congresses, which this year was a matter of hours, and the recess itself the appointment itself got created during the recess. So this conspiracy, it is a conspiracy between corporate lawyers, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the right-wing media, and the Senate minority, all working together, and judges, all kinds of judges that were appointed in the last 10 years. It is a conspiracy, has basically shut down the ability of the Obama government to govern. And even within the White House, there's people who say, we can't rock the boat, we won't get anything done. So this is like a sinking ship.
But it's a really important part of the story because it is part and parcel of income inequality, of the corporate takeover of our courts and of our Senate. And I think that's a really important point to make, that this is part and parcel of the larger fight we're having.
Yep, it's central to the larger fight. It's central to the conspiracy that's working against us. It's been working against us for decades, since the Lewis Powell memo and the U.S. Chamber moving in that direction 40 years ago. They've had a 40-year plan, and they're winning at it, even when they lose every election, which they've been losing, including 2012. They lost, but they never really lose because they can come back through not only the Senate rules, but through the money in politics, scaring Democrats who have to run in 2014. Well, if you stand up and do this, you'll get no corporate money. Well, with no corporate money, and if they have a real opponent, they likely lose an election. So this is, again, the conspiracy at work.
And it extends beyond, of course, the NLRB to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Yeah.
It's almost at a point where they're using the obstruction of these appointees to actually nullify laws.
Exactly.
Whether it's the National Labor Relations Act or Dodd-Frank financial reform.
Federal Election Commission has no confirmed members. The Federal Labor Relations Authority, which is labor law for the federal sector, has 1 member. It goes on and on. I don't have the whole list in my head, but the list is unbelievable. And then, of course, there's all the judicial vacancies that exist, about 80 of those, federal court.
And EPA.
EPA administrator.
And Labor Department.
The Labor Secretary. I mean, at least there we have a very good acting Labor Secretary. So he was confirmed before as Hilda Solis's deputy, if that's the precise word. And so he's acting because he's not recess, he's acting. That's a higher standard. But yeah, I mean, it's the list. It's unbelievable. This is not democracy.